Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse, and you're watching the Electric Performance Channel. Now, Blake, I got a question for you. I have a Model 3. What's to stop me from getting $1 million from somebody and ripping the car apart, putting in, 300 kilowatt hours of battery power and getting some kind of crazy motor out of something that would normally go in like a giant dump truck and, making this absolutely beast of a car, Model 3, that I would then just beat your record at Pikes Peak with?
What stops you from doing that? Actually, I encourage you to do that because I'd like to see a overly large dump truck motor powered by an obscenely strong battery and figure out how that's all going to fit in. That being said, there are particular classes at Pikes Peak, and Pikes Peak, because it is one of the oldest races in the world and it's the second oldest race in America, over time there's been an evolution of the rules kind of following the evolution of different cars. So if you look back in time, you'll see that there were once classes for diesel vehicles specifically. You'll look back and there are rules for open wheel versus closed wheel. There are prototypes. There are even big rigs that have run at Pikes Peak. When it comes to the record that we're trying to achieve and why we're building the Model 3 that we are, is that the current record I hold is for the production electric class. So what does that mean? It means that it needs to be a vehicle that at least 500 of that type of vehicle was built for homologation. So when vehicles like the Faraday Future went out against my record, that had never really gone into production, so that did not fit the production rule. Beyond that, there's classes like the electric modified, and I'd have to say that the electric class has been the one that is the least refined to date because it happened so quickly. And to kind of take a step back in time, when you look at all of the other classes that evolved, they were built around incremental changes in technology. With the electric cars, it basically went from the, hey, also ran, not a threat to us, to dominating the event within 1 decade, right? And so when they first made the classes, there was just electric production and electric modified. Electric production cars were cars like a Model S or the Model 3 I'm going to run, and previous to me was held by a Nissan Leaf and then a Honda that was an electric as well. So if we go back in time, that production class were things that were being made. The modified were crazy things like Reese Millen's winning electric prototype, as well as the Volkswagen modified car. So that, as far as the electric class, they've actually now done away with them because the electrics are so competitive. So in this year, not to confuse you further, but while we are going for a previous record, we are going to be running in a class called the exhibition class. And the purpose of exhibition are two major things. One, you have a vehicle that doesn't fit into any rules that ever existed, but you still want to be able to showcase the talent of the driver, the team, the technology. Or you are a driver and team that is looking at a previously established record and you want to beat that record. Now, to do that, you must follow the rules of what the record was set at.
So I can't do the thing that I was going to do.
Oh,
that
you can
would
do
be
it.
the
You're just going to
experimental.
you'll be in the modified class. You'll be going against the Volkswagen IDR.
For those of you watching who don't know, the IDR was an electric car who it beat the record, all records at Pikes Peak. So electric cars are a pretty strong contender at Pikes Peak. It's safe to say, because they went from being basically hardly in the mix to blow past all of the competition.
Yes, and what's interesting is that previously classes that do still exist, like a time attack class, that was not something that necessarily, I don't know if it prohibited electric cars back in the day, but nobody would have run an electric car in there because it would not have been competitive. So nowadays at Pikes Peak, somebody who's looking to run an electric has a few options. They could be going for a previous record like my own or the IDR, or they can build an electric car and fit it within the time attack class or the open class or the unlimited class, and now they fit within the rules of the internal combustion engines, which is really exciting. And it's something that, outside of going against our previous record, it might be something we look at for a future event.
So let me just ask you again, for the production, the electric production class, why have a production class? Why don't we just want the fastest and the best and the beefiest, and let's just put a tank motor in this tiny little, golf cart and zip it up the mountain as fast as possible? Why production?
Yeah, so there, as a racer, the natural inkling is that, and especially Pikes Peak, those who play video games always see the Pikes Peak specials as these huge winged, amazing, like almost tube framed carbon fiber outer shell unlimited special, and those were the unlimiteds. And there's a tendency to want to do that, but I think that for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of showcasing technology, having a vehicle that anybody, well, I don't want to say anybody, but somebody who has the means can go out and purchase the Model 3 Performance, and what we are building is going to directly relate to what their car that they drive has the capability with some safety modifications and a few other things to be able to do, versus a one-off special where, especially for a lot of the naysayers that are still saying, wait, electric and performance are two words that are completely exclusive from each other, right? They need to see something that is a production intent. And that's why we're going after production for this year. I think that as time goes on, it will still be extremely relevant to always baseline what production cars can do. But it's also going to be even more exciting as technology develops to continue to push that kind of in-between ground of the, here's an IDR that's a special, to, okay, now people are starting to tune electric cars and starting to modify them the way they do internal combustions. That's where they're going to fall into like the time attack class, and you're going to start seeing some really exciting things in the coming years.
And I heard Blake say that there is a semi class. So we are getting the Tesla semi truck. I think it's only going to be fair that we try it on Pikes Peak.
Yeah, well, and you know what I want to do? I want to find a car that didn't have that great a record that we could probably beat with the semi truck, and take the car on the bed of the semi truck up Pikes Peak faster than the car could have made it itself had it been driving under its own power.
Interesting.
Kind of like the Model X did the 0 to 60 and beat a car, I think it was the Alfa Romeo, in a drag race while towing an Alfa Romeo. So
Right.
the Alfa Romeo being towed by a Model X was faster than it under its own power.
So like take a Ford Model T or something, put it on the back, and then we can say that the Ford Model T has the record.
Exactly.
Interesting. And then what about conversions? Are there any EV conversions that you're seeing popping up that are racing at Pikes, or not yet?
Well, actually, there have been historically. So EV West ran a BMW that they had converted. Back then, they had run a Warp motor, DC motor in there with, I think, I'm not sure what batteries they were running that day, but now they do have a Tesla Model S motor in there with, I believe, the Leaf batteries or the Volt batteries, and it's a lot quicker. So they had a converted electric that actually did quite well at Pikes, and it was, I believe, in the high 11 or low 12 minutes. The car was a properly modified chassis from a standpoint of suspension. It would have been like a Time Attack 1 class, but they did a conversion. I believe there's also been a few other kind of home-built projects that people have done over the years that were electric conversions, but a lot of those didn't fit into the production class because you can't go down and buy a BMW with an electric motor that would be competitive.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for clearing up this confusion around classes, and too bad that I can't, get the dump truck motor and put it in my car. It would probably rip it in half, so it's good that I can still, commute it in.
Yeah. Thank you, Blake. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for watching Electric Performance. Please subscribe, share, and hit the like button.